January is the most delusional month in personal finance. Not because people are stupid. Because January is when millions of otherwise intelligent adults look at their bank account, their debt, their habits, their spending patterns, and calmly decide to outsource all improvement to a future version of themselves who apparently has better character, more energy, clearer skin, stronger boundaries, and the emotional stability of a Buddhist monk with direct deposit. January is when people say things like, "This year I'm finally going to save seriously. This year I'm going to stop using the credit card like a stress management device. This year I'm going to invest consistently. This year I'm going to stop pretending takeout is a personality trait. This year I'm going to get organized." And for about 11 minutes, that version of life feels completely believable. Then February shows up with a weird bill. March gets busy. April gets expensive. Summer becomes social. Fall gets chaotic. November starts whispering things like you've had a hard year. December arrives with receipts and emotional justifications wearing a festive sweater. And suddenly the same financial cleanup gets postponed to some vague future date again. That pattern is not random. That pattern is one of the biggest reasons people stay financially stuck for years while constantly feeling like they are about to get it together. Because a lot of people are not really making money decisions based on today's reality. They're making them based on a fantasy about who they'll be later. Later I'll be calmer. Later I'll spend less. Later I'll work harder. Later I'll finally become one of those people who automates everything, cooks at home, tracks expenses, reads investment books for fun, and does not respond to a mildly stressful afternoon by buying 3 unnecessary things and a $12 iced drink. That person sounds amazing. There's just one problem. They never actually arrive. Or more accurately, they arrive looking suspiciously like you. Same job, same habits, same weak spots, same emotional reflexes, same ability to mistake exhaustion for deserving a little something. And once you understand that, a lot of financial behavior starts making much more sense. Because the expensive part is not just the spending itself. It's the optimism. It's the way people use future discipline as a financing tool. They spend today because they believe tomorrow will be stronger. They delay today because they believe tomorrow will be more organized. They avoid structure today because they believe tomorrow will finally feel like the right time. That is a brutal way to run a financial life. Because later sounds harmless. But later is where compounding goes to die. The open tab nobody talks about. Think about how people treat a credit card tab at a bar. You order now because settling happens later. That delay changes your psychology. You stop feeling each decision with the same intensity because the cost is no longer fully attached to the moment. The future self scam works exactly like that, except instead of a bar tab, it's your entire financial life. You create distance between the choice and the consequence. Not by lying outright, but by using soft language. I will make up for it next month. I will start once things calm down. I will pay extra later. I will invest after I learn a little more. I will be more careful once this season passes. The phrase changes. The mechanism doesn't. You are opening a tab with the future. And the future, being extremely rude, keeps sending the bill back to your current life. That is why this pattern feels manageable for so long. The damage is fragmented. No single moment looks catastrophic. It is not one giant collapse. It is a series of small temporary exceptions that eventually form your permanent financial personality. That is what makes this so dangerous. People think they have a few messy months. What they really have is a system built on recurring delay. Spring, the months when saving was supposed to begin. Let us start with savings, because this is where the whole pattern looks the most innocent. Almost nobody says, "I am against saving." People love the idea of saving. They admire savings accounts. They respect emergency funds. They watch videos about compound interest with the emotional tone of someone touring a luxury home they cannot yet afford. The problem is not belief. The problem is timing. Saving almost always gets pushed to a more convenient version of life. After the trip, after the birthday month, after the car situation, after tax season, after summer, after the holidays, after I stop feeling behind, after this weird stretch. But adulthood is one long weird stretch. That is the scam. People keep waiting for a financially quiet month to begin behaving financially well. That month often does not exist. Or if it does exist, it lasts 4 days and gets interrupted by a dental bill, a group dinner, a school expense, a plane ticket, a prescription refill, or the simple fact that being alive in a modern economy seems to cost money every time you turn your head. So saving becomes something people fully intend to do in principle while never making it structurally unavoidable. And when something is optional, stress usually wins. Let us use small math. Say you keep postponing a $300 monthly saving habit for 4 years because you are waiting for life to feel more manageable. That is $14,400 you never contributed. Now give that missed money another 20 years to compound at 8%, and the cost of delay is no longer just 14 grand. Now you are talking about something that can easily become $60,000 or more depending on timing. All because the habit kept getting moved to a month that felt more emotionally convenient. That is the trap. A lot of people think they are waiting to become financially stronger before they save. In reality, saving was one of the things that would have made them stronger. Summer. When debt becomes a promise to your future self. Debt is where this pattern gets mean. Because debt is the place where future optimism gets converted into numbers. Not all debt starts with chaos. A shocking amount of it starts with a sentence that sounds completely normal. I will just put it on the card for now. That sentence has funded more financial regret than almost anything else in adult life. Not because credit cards are evil in some cartoonish way. Because, for now, is emotionally soothing. It lets you keep the dinner, the purchase, the fix, the convenience, the image, the relief, and the hope all at once. You get the benefit today and the discomfort later. That feels efficient in the moment. It is not efficient. It is delayed honesty. And interest charges a fee for honesty arriving late. Imagine someone who keeps carrying an extra $2,500 balance because every month they assume next month will be more disciplined. This month was unusual. Next month I will be tighter. This was temporary. I just need one good reset. But next month is never blank. Next month has a life in it already. It has groceries and fatigue and obligations and some weird emotional crack in the week where spending money briefly feels like control. So the balance survives. And once the balance survives, it starts recruiting. Interest joins. Minimum payments join. A little shame joins. Avoidance joins. Suddenly the card isn't just debt. It's background stress with a logo on it. This is why people can earn more and still feel stuck. Because the future version of them was supposed to clean up the mess, but the current version of them keeps inheriting it instead. Fall, the season of imaginary income. This is one of the least discussed versions of the problem, and it wrecks people quietly. A lot of adults start spending money before they earn it. Not physically, mentally. They pre-spend raises. They pre-spend bonuses. They pre-spend future business growth. They pre-spend the version of their career that exists mostly as a mood board. This is how people sign leases based on a salary they should be at soon. This is how they take on car payments because I'm moving up. This is how they justify lifestyle creep before the financial foundation underneath it actually exists. The story always sounds reasonable. I'm not overspending. I'm just getting ahead of where I know I'm going. That sentence has incredible confidence for something that hasn't happened yet. And even when the raise does arrive, something almost always beats the relief to your front door. A higher grocery bill, a nicer apartment, a trip, a creeping standard of what now feels normal, a delayed bill from old decisions, a new desire disguised as deserved reward. Future income is one of the most overbooked assets in personal finance. Everybody wants to assign it jobs before it clocks in. But imagined income is not income. It is hope. And hope does not pay fixed expenses. Winter, when preparation becomes procrastination in better clothes. Now let us talk about investing, because this is where financially smart people sometimes fool themselves in the most elegant way. They do not say, I am avoiding investing. They say, I am preparing. They want to learn more first. Then they want to understand tax efficiency. Then they want to pick the best account. Then they want a cleaner budget first. Then they want the market to calm down. Then they want to wait for a better entry point. Then they want to feel more certain. And just like that, 5 years disappear. This is especially seductive because it sounds so responsible. But responsibility and delay are not the same thing. Some education is necessary, obviously. Throwing money randomly at whatever some guy online called the next big thing is not investing. That is volunteering for disappointment. But a lot of what people call preparation is just fear in a blazer. They are not trying to become informed enough to act. They are trying to become comfortable enough to act. That is a different goal, and it usually takes much longer because comfort is not a milestone. It is a weather pattern. Let us keep the math simple. If you invest $500 a month for 20 years at 8%, you end up around $294,000. Wait 5 years because you are getting ready, and now you only have 15 years left. Same $500 a month. Same rate. Now the result is around $174,000. That gap is about $120,000. Not because you picked the wrong ETF. Not because you lacked intelligence. Because you mistook delay for prudence. That is painful and extremely common. Why the fantasy future self is always so impressive. Here's the psychology underneath all of this. People imagine their future selves in ideal conditions. Future you is never tired in these fantasies. Never socially pressured. Never bored. Never underpaid. Never emotionally flattened by life. Never standing in a store justifying nonsense because the week felt aggressive. Future you is a clean, optimized concept. Current you is a human being. That gap matters. Because when people say, "I'll handle it later," what they often mean is, "I believe a version of me with better emotional conditions will take over." But the better emotional conditions do not magically appear because the calendar changed. Your future self is not built by time alone. Your future self is built by repeated behavior. If you keep avoiding structure now, you are training avoidance. If you keep spending for relief now, you are training that loop. If you keep postponing hard financial actions until a calmer month, you are training delay to feel normal. So time does not rescue the pattern. Time reinforces it. That is why so many people feel blindsided after years of good intentions. They kept expecting time to improve character. Time usually just reveals systems. The weird emotional version of this scam. This pattern is not just about debt, saving, or investing. It also shows up in identity purchases. People buy things for the person they hope to become. The expensive planner for organized future them. The kitchen gear for disciplined future them. The course for focused future them. The workout setup for relentless future them. The nicer clothes for polished future them. The software subscription for productive future them. Sometimes that works. A lot of times it doesn't. A lot of times people are not buying tools. They are buying a shortcut to a personality shift. And when the personality shift fails to arrive on schedule, the object stays while the disappointment grows. That creates a weird emotional residue. Now you are not just financially behind. You are staring at physical reminders of all the versions of yourself you purchased in advance and never fully became. That is why this scam is not just expensive. It is exhausting. It makes people feel like they are always on the edge of transformation while somehow living the same month over and over again. So what actually breaks the cycle? Not guilt. Guilt is useless here. People already feel enough of that. What breaks the cycle is making money decisions that do not depend on a heroic future personality. That means replacing vague promises with structures. Not, "I'll save when things settle." A transfer on the first of the month. Not, "I'll pay the card down soon." A fixed extra payment every Friday. Not, "I'll invest once I've learned enough." A basic automatic contribution this week. Not, "I'll spend less next month." A rule that catches spending before the moment of weakness instead of after. The goal is not to become stricter in theory. The goal is to stop writing financial plans that only work if future you become someone else. A useful question is this. If future me is basically the same person I am right now, does this decision still work? That question kills a lot of bad logic immediately. If the answer is no, then you do not have a plan. You have a fantasy with recurring charges. Another thing that helps, stop making motivation do jobs that automation can do better. Motivation is seasonal. Stress is permanent. So build systems for the version of you that is tired, distracted, annoyed, overscheduled, and still expected to function. That is the real user, not the color-coded version of you who appears in your head every January. The challenge nobody wants, but almost everybody needs. Here is a simple behavioral challenge. For the next 30 days, ban the word later from your money life unless it comes with a date, a number, or an automated system. That's it. Not later. When exactly? How much exactly? By what mechanism exactly? Because vague future language is where this whole pattern hides. Later is not a strategy. Soon is not a plan. Eventually is not a budget. When things calm down is not a system. The moment you force specificity, the fantasy future self loses a lot of power. And that is good, because you do not need future you to be magical. You need current you to be honest enough to build a structure that works under normal human conditions. Not ideal conditions. Not New Year's energy. Not post-paycheck optimism. Normal conditions. That is how financial stability is built. Not through dramatic reinvention. Through boring reliability. Conclusion. The future self-scam works because it sounds hopeful. It lets people believe they are still responsible while delaying responsibility. It lets them keep today's comfort and tomorrow's optimism in the same hand. That is why it lasts. But if you zoom out, a lot of financial pain is just repeated overconfidence about the person you're going to be later. Later you will save. Later you will stop spending emotionally. Later you will invest. Later you will clear the balance. Later you will become more disciplined. Maybe. But maybe later you will just be you again. A little older. A little busier. A little more tired. Still dealing with life. Still vulnerable to convenience. Still susceptible to deferring hard things until they become more expensive. And if that's true, then the smartest move is not to keep making promises to the future. It is to stop depending on them. Because the most expensive lie in personal finance is not, money will solve everything. It is, I'll solve this when I'm better. Maybe you won't be better. Maybe you'll just be later. And later is expensive.